Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be covering the best build you can use. Now I'm saying it's the best not just because it does the most damage, taking out the toughest bosses easily, but there's just so many things to it, like having ranged attacks, the freeze status effect, being tanky, and even breaking a boss's guard in just a few hits. The only thing comparable to this setup would be a bleed build, and we all know how broken those are. I mean, I did make one that kills everything, including bleed resistant enemies, but that's not the point of today's video. If you want to check that one out, I'll put a link to it in the description down below. Anyways, let's actually get into this build now. So when you start the game off, you're going to want to choose the Prisoner class. This is just going to allow you to match all of the stats I have while being able to get the most potential out of this setup. If you do use another class, just know your stats might be a little bit off from mine, which isn't a huge issue. You'll still do similar amounts of damage, but it's something worth mentioning though. After, when you start to put points into the build, you'll want to have at least 38 intelligence, 14 dex, and 20 strength. I'd focus a lot more on getting the minimum strength and dex requirements first, because the main weapon we use is pretty late into the game, and that's what requires a 38 intelligence to use. Then I'd focus more on intelligence for damage, vigor for health, and 28 endurance to fast roll. So since our main weapon is further into the game, which kinda sucks but it'll be completely worth it when you get it, I'll go over a nice starter weapon you can use until then. For the early game, we're going to be running the Bastard Sword, mainly because it's extremely easy to get and it's one of the best great swords you can grab that allows you to place different Ashes of War on it. Now a nice bonus to it is it does use different upgrading materials from the late game weapon, so try to level this up as much as you can since it's not going to affect you later and it's just going to make fights much easier. Before I show you guys where to find this, here's an interesting fact about today's sponsor, Hero Wars. They have tons of different and unique characters you can use, ranging from cyborgs, aliens, vampires, even furries won't be disappointed. My personal choice is the Chaba, but I have no doubt you'll find your own personal favorite champion in Hero Wars today. Regardless, let's get back to the build. To get this, you'll have to buy it from the Nomadic Merchant that sits beside the Castle Morn Rampart Site of Grace.
Vámonos.
Next, you'll want to put the Cold Affinity on it, which is going to allow us to proc the freeze status effect on enemies, taking a chunk of their health away and making them take 20% increased damage for 30 seconds. It's pretty huge because this debuff helps out everyone, yourself, teammates, and summonings. More importantly, it's going to increase the damage of the Ash of War we're going to use, Carrion Greatsword. Your character charges up the sword, having 2 stages before bringing it down with increased range and a lot of damage, like a really solid amount. The only drawback to it is it does take quite a bit of time to charge up, so having either a teammate or a spirit summoning to distract the boss is highly recommended. I mean, having any teammates in general is really good, especially when we can get the frost effect going. So to find these, the Ash of War Carrion Greatsword can be bought from Roger for 2,500 runes, and he can be found in Stormveil Castle or at the Round Table if you've already spoken to him. Afterwards, to get the Cold Affinity, you'll first have to grab the Academy key that's right behind a sleeping dragon in Liurnia of the Lakes. Good news, you don't have to fight him, you can just take it and run away. With this, you can now enter the Academy, work your way through it, and find the Glintstone Whetblade in an office with a wizard in it. This is what's going to give you the option to place the Cold Affinity on weapons, and the way you use this early game setup is very straightforward. First, proc Frost on the boss you're going up against to debuff them and take a chunk of their health away. Then just have your teammate or summoning distract them while you get free hits off with the Ash of War. It shouldn't take too many hits with how much damage it can throw out. With the early game covered, now let's get into the main weapon for the build. So the best weapon to use is the Darkmoon Greatsword. It's all around fantastic with its damage, passively having 55 frost build up to it, and having one of the best Ashes of War in the game, Moonlight Greatsword. Your character buffs the sword by adding an extra 65 magic damage and 15 more frost build up to its attacks for 60 seconds. However, the part that makes it one of the best Ashes of War is it turns your heavy attacks into projectiles that not only do tons of damage, apply the freeze status effect, but also break a boss's guard so quickly, I'm surprised they haven't nerfed it yet. I probably just jinxed it, but whatever. So to get this sword, you'll find it below the Cathedral of Manus Salis after giving the Dark Moon Ring to Ranni. You'll have to make a lot of progress in Ranni's questline to get this. Again, like I said, it's completely worth it. It ends up turning the game into easy mode. Before you do all of that, I wouldn't progress too far into it, cause then you'll miss out on getting the Magic Scorpion Charm that increases all of our magic damage by 12% for the exchange of 10% increased damage. The negative part of the talisman is going to be cancelled out from the armor we use, so don't worry about that too much. To get this, you're going to have to give the Amber Starlight to Preceptor Celavis, who will then reward you with the Magic Scorpion Charm. Another questline you have to get into, but not too far, or else you won't be able to get the Greatsword.
It's just marvelous.
By the way, Hero Wars is a world of 6 unique modes and 100 million players. You can play alone or with friends. Also, be sure to try out the Titans mode and become a legend by playing Hero Wars now. If you do miss out on the Magic Scorpion Charm, it's not the end of the world because we are going to have another 2 talismans that'll increase our damage even more by 30% total. The Shard of Alexander, boosting all Ashes of War damage by an extra 15%, and Godfrey's Icon doing the same thing except with Ashes of War that need to be charged up. And the Moonlight Greatsword Ash of War is just buffing the sword up. Like, I'm not complaining or anything, in matter of fact, I like it more because it helps me out so much. Now, I'd recommend getting Godfrey's Icon first, since you can get it a lot sooner than the Shard of Alexander. You'll have to reach the Golden Lineage Evergaol and kill a version of Godfrey to be rewarded it. With the Shard of Alexander, bit of a spoiler coming up. You'll have to finish the Iron Fist Alexander questline, which involves you killing him in order to get it. It's a big trade-off, but definitely worth it. Continuing on with the weapons, we are using a shield in our left hand that's mainly used for offensive purposes, the Jellyfish Great Shield. It is going to offer a decent amount of protection, being able to block 1 or 2 really big hits. So if there is an attack that you're not too confident with dodging, you can just absorb it with the shield instead. It also works great for counterattacking since it is a great shield and most attacks will just bounce off of it. Now the main focus of the shield is for the offensive buff from its Ash of War, Contagious Fury, increasing our damage by 20% for 30 seconds. Kinda like the free status effect, except the increased damage only applies to us. So the reason this pairs extremely well with the shield is because you only have to use the sword's Ash of War once, and then all of your heavy attacks turn into hard-hitting projectiles. Not hard to follow at all, and it gives off a pretty nice look with the red and blue color scheme. On top of this, since we are going to have a shield and stay at a distance when we're fighting, we're not really going to take damage much. With that said, we can throw on the Ritual Sword Talisman that increases our damage by 10% while being at full health, which is going to be almost all of the time. To get this, you're going to have to kill a Demi-Human Queen that can be found in the Lux Ruins. If you guys remember at the start of the video, I mentioned that we can break a boss's guard with just a few hits, and part of this does come from the Flask of Wondrous Physic, or more exactly, the Stonebarb Crack tier. It increases our stance damage by 30% for 30 seconds, so for that time, you'll be able to break a boss's guard with even less hits than before, and since it only lasts for 30 seconds, you should use the Flask as the last buff you apply. It's still more than enough time to get off a lot of damage, if not end the fight entirely. Then the other tier you could use is the Magic Shrouding one, increasing all of our magic damage by 20% for 3 minutes. Both of these are really powerful buffs and easily refillable, so I'd highly recommend getting them. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Here's a question for you. Where can you get 30,000 coins, 600 emeralds, and 5 awesome heroes to start dominating in Hero Wars right away? Too slow. The answer is in the link in the description down below. Play Hero Wars now! For the Stonebarb tier, you'll have to kill a Putrid Avatar boss that sits by the Minor Erd tree in Caelid. Beforehand, you can grab the Magic Shrouding tier by doing pretty much the same thing, killing another Erdtree avatar boss, except this one can be found at the minor Erdtree northeast of Liurnia of the Lakes. Last thing for this build is the armor we use, which does have a decent impact on its overall performance. So with the chest and legs, you'll want to grab something heavy. For me, I went with the Beast Champion set that offers a good amount of protection and looks pretty nice. This is the main armor that's going to help with cancelling out the negative effects of the Magic Scorpion charm. Now with the helmet and gloves, instead of using the Beast Champion armor, it's a better idea to go with the Spellblade set because this is going to increase the Moonlight Greatsword special attack by 2% for each piece of the set we have on. So in total, we get a 4% damage increase on it. The reason for the helmet and gloves is because those armor slots offer the least amount of protection, and it doesn't matter which pieces from the set you use. They all give a 2% damage bonus to magic and cold related Ashes of War. It also makes more sense to use heavier armor for the chest and legs to get more protection. So to get the Spellblade set, this actually drops from Roger, the guy you buy an Ash of War from the starter weapon. He dies at the round table and you just pick it up. Then for the Beast Champion's armor, you'll have to kill the Knight Bernal for him to drop it. You can either kill him at the War Master's Shack or at the Crumbling Farum Azula, which is much later on in the game, but you'll probably be more prepared for the fight then.
To be certain, the Volcano Manor awaits you.
Well, that's everything for today's build. Before I end the video off, I do want to give a big thanks to the members of my channel for supporting me on my videos and the future ones to come. That said, thanks for watching, and I hope I see you all in the next one.